go. I think I can share. Hold on. Where are you? There we go. Can you hear us, everyone?
Hello? Can you hear us?
Yep, we can hear you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Welcome, welcome. We are so excited that you're all joining us today. My name is Eva Paradiso, and I'm the program coordinator for the Teen Urban Tree Corps. I'm so excited that you are all here because this summer, our teens, the Teen Urban Tree Corps, have been doing absolutely amazing things. We were up in trees yesterday, and we have been all across Boston looking at the urban forest, and they have projects that they've been working on that they're going to share with us that show us places across Boston where we might be able to actually improve the canopy. And I'm super excited for you to see their presentations because they've all worked so hard and done a phenomenal job. All right, David, would you like to say a few words? Amazing.
Thank you, Eva. Round of applause for Eva. Well, my name is David Meshulam, and 3 years ago, I founded this organization in Boston with my colleague Amanda Rich called Speak for the Trees. Sammy here is the only person in the room who was here for the first summer. She's been here for the second summer and our third summer. She's seen us get rooted in Boston and all the amazing work that we do right now is in large part because of the commitment of people like Sammy who support us. So I want to thank Sammy and everyone else. Now, Eva's left all this as a surprise to me and to Jarrell and to the other staff members. So I don't know what's coming, but I heard it's really good. And I'm really excited to see it. I wanted to thank not only the teams, but the dozens of people that were part of this program who helped create it. I saw Christina Bizanson on the line from UMass Amherst, who was a consultant. Our community outreach manager, Jarrell, is here. Our team leaders, our past interns, our future interns. How many people did you all meet? Do you remember? How many guest speakers did you have? A lot, right? Rep Miranda was here. Chief of Energy and Environment, Mariama Hammond came to visit us. We had Commissioner Ryan Woods. We had people in his department, Zoe Davis. We had Maggie Owens. We had arborists, Greg Mossman. We had private industry folks. These kids met a lot of people. And if I forgot your name, we haven't forgot about you. We so appreciate the time that you put in to committed to this cause of building a more resilient and healthy Boston for generations to come. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I also want to thank our funders, and I got to do this, kids, because this is important stuff for people who commit to you with dollars in your pocket. That's Boston Youth Engagement and Employment through the Success Link program, an amazing group of people. The John Hancock MLK program. We have funders from the Department of Conservation and Recreation. We have Boston and Beyond who supported us. And we have the Boston Foundation, and we have other foundations out there. Our colleagues at American Forest and Arbor Day Foundation have also been amazing as we grow not only this program, but the whole organization. Now, I'm going to make my pitch real quick, right? We all know money doesn't grow on trees, right? So we so welcome your support and your donations to help us get rooted here in the city of Boston, support these amazing youth to continue doing work, continue learning about tree equity, environmental justice, and building a more resilient city. I've been thinking a lot about what this work means this week and this summer and this year, because I don't think I've ever felt more vulnerable than I have this past year. With COVID, with the IPCC report coming out earlier this week, with the wildfires that we see raging across the globe, I feel like our world's on fire. And I feel scared. And I think what we have here is hope, right? We have these teens who've been left with like humongous responsibility to help us get through this mess that we've created. And when I think about vulnerability, I think about how a tree is probably one of the most vulnerable things out there. All alone, can't move, has no one to defend it. And when I think about a tree, I think about the mama tree. There's a new book that just came out about how the mother tree supports all of her baby trees around her with these underground networks. They feed each other, they talk to each other, they support each other. And what makes these forests around the globe survive through some of these crises is these trees care for each other. And they care for each other because they're all different. Because they all have different magic powers. Some of them do really well when it's wet. Some of them do really well when it's hot. And they talk to each other and they communicate with each other. And in their diversity is strength. And when I look out here at all you all, I see a diversity of everything, of skills, of passions, of talkability. Right? Some of you like to talk a lot more than others, but I see all of you has a strength, and I see all of you support each other. So when you're feeling vulnerable, or when you're feeling alone, I want you to think about how together this summer you all came together and supported each other, and now you have friends not only out there with the trees, but you have friends with each other. You have us, you have Eva, you have Darrell, you have me, you have the team leaders, right? Darrell reminded me this morning, I brought him this book. Who's read this book before? I've seen this movie. Our organization comes from this book, the Lorax. This little guy with the big mustache who sees the trees being cut all around him. And he's yelling, he's saying, I speak to the trees. The trees have no tongues. And it doesn't matter how loud he yells, everyone around him is cutting down the trees because the trees are worth money. Right? And it's an awful ending. But then I read it again last night and I remembered the penultimate, the second to last page. I'm going to leave you with this before you guys show us the way forward. As he's sitting there with all these stumps around him, little boy is given a seed, and he said, now that you're here,
Yeah.
word of the Lorax.
Okay, I'm watching somebody standing with a mask holding the Lorax. So
Hi.
somebody's waving. I should
Unless
should
someone like you
watch this.
cares a whole awful lot,
Okay,
nothing is going to get better.
Mazel tov. Bye.
I want you to take those words with you. We've empowered you this summer to care a whole lot. We hope together that we can make the world a whole lot better. So, with that, Eva, I turn it over to you.
Alrighty, so we are going to have our first group, and one of our team leaders, Sayer, has been working closely with the group, and he will be introducing the group, and then we will start the presentation.
Okay, how's everyone doing today? Hi. Okay, so over the past couple of weeks, I've been working with these students very closely, and I'm very proud of the work that they've pulled off after all this time. I feel like they really put a lot of dedication, heart, and soul into this, and I couldn't be way more proud of them. Especially with my first time as with something like this. This is kind of a big opportunity for me because I've never been a leader before, and like I've always tried to stay away from leadership positions. So like I feel like by working with TTC, it really gave me opportunity. I could essentially lead, and I hope that with this job, I'm able to take the skills I learned from this into the future. So without further ado, let me introduce my group. So these five, I'm really proud of, like I said, So let's give it up for Johanna, Skylar, Lucy, Elijah, and Miriam.
There are requested several, sir. Maybe not. You all seeing the trees and the sunset?
Yes.
Thumbs up? Yeah, thank you. All right. Go ahead. Speak loudly so they can hear you that mic.
My name is Skylar. I'm 16. I go to Noble Middle School and I live in Hyde.
My name is Miriam. I'm in Dorchester. I'm 16. I go to Hammond Academy.
My name is Johanna. I'm 17. I go to my charter school and I live in Concord.
I'm 17. I go to Roxbury Prep and I live in JP.
My name is Luigi. I'm 15. I live in Dorchester, and I go to Boston.
This is the Rossfield project.
Just watch it here.
All right, so this is our introduction. Basically, we looked at Ross Field and we saw that there was a bunch of trash around the area. We saw that there was a bunch of trash around the area and not much diversity in trees. So we needed to make a change to that. So what we did was we made goals and we looked at the park and we decided to do something about it. So we made a plan.
Rossville is located in Hyde Park and about it. Okay. About is that there's a field there that has a perimeter of trees around it, and it seems to have been surrounded by a baseball field. That's usually made around 2002. There's also a field that has just plain on grassland there, but not many trees there. And there's a playground to the side of it towards the right corner that's initially made. And the playground is used for people to bring their kids there. There's a track around the field that people use to walk, run, jog, and bring their dogs there.
Oh, now it's up there. Hey. Okay, here too.
So on this spot, it's like we name it the important of trees in Rossville. So, the bullet points are like what trees the benefit of trees. So trees help with like reducing stress and lower blood pressure and also like, improve people's mood and control level of asthma. So we chose Rossville because like, like there were trees already there, but like the trees were really unhealthy. And like most of Hyde Park have trees, but like most of the trees are not really healthy. So we thought like before like planting any more trees, we will actually like take care of the trees already there and plant more.
Okay, so before we talk about the tree inventory that we made in Rossville, we just wanted to quickly define what a tree inventory was. So a tree inventory, it's just basically a gathering of data about the trees in an area, and some of the data is about the diversity of the species then, and also some of the, and then also like the health and condition the trees are in. And then usually that data is put into a map, and the map you can see on the screen is just kind of an example of what a tree inventory can kind of look like. You can kind of see that like the different colored dots on the map, and that kind of just represents the different conditions the trees are in the surrounding area. So for the tree inventory that we did in Rossville, we inventoried 21 trees, and we found that the majority of trees there were little leaf limpet trees, but there are also other species like Nor maple, red maples, American lintons, and John Woods, and then cherry trees as well. And then in the chart on the bottom left, you can kind of see we took also the DBHs of all the trees in Rossville, and the DBH is the diameter at this height, which is basically just the measurement of the diameter of the trees. And you start at the base of the tree and measure 4.5 feet up or 4 feet up. And then you take the diameter of the tree, and we found that the largest diameters were in literally.
So these are the pictures of the trees that we saw. Little leaf linden, cherry tree, and what's that? Red maple. Essentially both.
So this is our tree inventory. Basically, we identified all the trees that were at the park, and we saw their condition. And we basically marked them by their condition, which you can see on the key, or fair or good. And here's the observation of trees or our tree inventory. Basically, describing the condition of the trees. And here shows a video of Ross Field.
And then in the video, you can kind of see that there aren't too many trees in Rossfield, and that there are a lot of gaps in between trees that are there. And at the base of some of the trees, there are suckers, which are basically just kind of plants that take away the nutrients from trees, which aren't, which isn't there.
Okay, for our event plan, before we advertised it, we would, for our event plan, we would advertise that we're doing this, through social media platform, and we're making flyers. The event will take place in the fall, and we'll also bring Max Four Diamond, the tree warden of Boston, to come in with pruning, cleaning up the trees around the roots, and also removing chemicals. We also get like donations for food and also volunteers to come and help at the park.
And then, so the event would also be to help prune some of the trees in Rossfield and also pick up the existing trash that's in the fields.
Okay. So, after the fall event, we'll have like a spring event where we'll be planting trees on like the existence, like planting spot that we had, like for an inventory. So, our plan would be like residents would be invited to like help with like planting the trees and water, right?
Yeah, and you can kind of see on like the map, like the areas like marked in kind of like pink are some areas that we thought would be good places to plant trees in Rossfield.
Okay, so the trees that we decided to plant here, we're opposed to, would be pin oak and crab apple. Both of them provide shade for the park, and also people can go there. And the crab apple attracts pollinators, so it can pollinate throughout the entire park and probably just around the area there. And the pin oak is tough for environment, so it can handle like heat and like less water that it might have, and it's easy to move.
So this is our flyers for the first event, and so the flyers would be like handed to like residents near Hyde Park, or like anyone really could come and help. And yeah.
So this is kind of the budget plan that we had for the community event and then also the long-term maintenance plan. So for the community event, like some of the costs would just include like tools, like shovels, and then we would also have costs, for bags to like clean up like the branches and debris and also the trash. And then for our and then some of the costs for the long-term maintenance would just be pruning and watering the new trees that we want to plant, and then also the existing trees, so that the trees that we planted wouldn't die. And so we can also keep up the maintenance for all the trees in the field.
So this is our long-term maintenance plan. So when our event ends and we're basically grown up. How are we gonna take care of the trees when we're not there? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna ask the city of Boston to help us maintain it. Basically prune it every like 2 to 3 years, and then water it every from like 1 to 2 weeks. And if it's possible, like we can get volunteers to help.
Y'all have questions? Anything you want to know? Any of y'all have questions?
How do you guys figure out the budget? Or what you needed and how much it cost?
We had to essentially. Explain it to me.
So basically for the community event, we kind of just thought about things that we would need to like help run the community event. So like, kind of what I said before, like, to prune a tree, like, pruners and other things like that. And then to get rid of like the debris we would need damage. And then to find the cost, we kind of just looked up like online, like cost of this equipment. And then for the long-term maintenance plan, we kind of looked up how much it would cost to prune a tree. And then since you really only prune a tree every 2 to 3 years, we kind of just did some of the math to figure out on the long-term.
All right, everyone. So, next we are going to have our second group present, and Izzy, another team leader, was working closely with them, and she will be introducing the group. So, enjoy.
Hi everyone, my name is Izzy Smith. I live in Medford and I've had the absolute honor of working with several incredible young people this summer. So our group has focused on increasing the tree canopy in Roxbury, which is one of the most disadvantaged areas in Boston, tree canopy wise. And they have come into it with such vigor and passion, and just have shown me so much, learned so much, and I'm really, really proud to see what all these incredible people have done and are going to do. So they have been working super hard, so I'm going to let them take it away. So I'm going to introduce Sammy, Ethan, Finn, Tantau, I'm so sorry, I'm spacing, Lauren, and where's my last one? Jack. Hey, Jack. It's been a long day.
Speak really loudly.
My name is Finn. I go to Madison Park High School. I'm 17. I live in Frankfurt.
My name is Lauren. I go to Mount Vernon High School. I'm a rising senior.
My name is Jack. I go to Boston High School. I'm a rising junior as well. I live in Oxford.
My name is Ethan. I also go to Boston Latin School. I'm a rising sophomore, and I live in Brighton.
My name is Tantau. I go to Boston Latin Academy. I'm a rising genius.
My name is Sammy. I just graduated from Boston Latin Academy, and I live in Austin. For the Trees is a nonprofit organization to keep trees healthy and
Yes.
We also plant trees, different sizes, in different neighborhoods. And on different field trips with groups and different speakers from came in with us what kind of jobs they found and might be interested in the future. So, I don't think you can say here. It produces shade, grass, area, things wall. So, you have noticed that, in the neighborhood that we went to, on Warren Street, in Roxbury, that a lot of trees come in and or people don't care about the trees. I think it's not by like picking up all the trash and making sure that cars don't damage the trees. The shirts tied to the tree.
So tree equity is closely related to redlining. So I'll just give you a brief background of redlining. Starting in the 1930s, certain areas of the city, for example, Roxbury, were designated by the city to have to receive less resources. These redlined areas were often composed of higher percentages of Latino and Black residents. So Black residents had a harder time getting loans, usually in the wider neighborhoods, so they were forced into the poorer areas. You can see this, there's a close correlation between redline neighborhoods like Roxbury. You can see here, I don't know if you can see, but Roxbury is redlined in this red circle. You can see here, Roxbury also has one of the lowest tree canopy coverages, like Izzy mentioned, in the entirety of Boston. So there's close correlation between redlined neighborhoods and low percentage of canopy coverage. So when we went to Warren Street, we did a survey of the existing trees. But before I'll give you a brief history of the median on Warren Street. So originally, starting in 2011, there were 5 trees planted in the median of Warren Street. So you can see in the upper photo, there are 5 trees. One is pointing out an arrow. As time progressed, the trees got older. So by 2013, 2017, you can see the trees on the tree. But specifically in the 2017 photo, you can see many of the trees, their conditions declined. And by 2019, there's only 1 tree left, and the other 4 trees died. So the 1 tree remaining is a red oak. It was pruned very oddly, so we couldn't take the diameter of rest type for DBH, but it looked pretty healthy other than that. But we also noticed the stumps, which are the remainders of the previous trees in the median. On the northbound side of Warren Street, you noticed a little leaf linden and a white oak. The linden also looked pretty healthy. There's a little bit of dieback in the upper canopy, but most notably, there are signs of improper pruning in the trunk and lower canopy. So a large bumps left over. There's also a white oak nearby. There is a younger tree and looked very healthy. There is also an elm tree further down the street. The elm tree had probably one of the healthiest canopies out of the entire area. But on the trunk, there's a large wound that hadn't begun to seal over yet. So there was termite infestation and possible other diseases. There's also a hornbeam tree, which had been improperly installed. So the felt root ball was still intact under the soil. So that prevented the roots from expanding and getting most of the nutrients. So there was major dieback in the upper canopy, and it's likely the tree will die soon. On the other side of the street, there is a group of 5 young trees. There are 3 Japanese alcovas, 1 elm tree, and 1 honey locust. As a whole, the trees are very healthy. There's a little bit of dieback Depending on the tree, it's always a little bit of scarring, but as a whole, all of the trees were very healthy. And finally, by the bus stop, there was an overcut oak tree. It had a lot of irregular growth and a lot of suckers, so growth coming up from the tree pit. And there is major dieback, as you can see in the upper canopy on the edges of the tree. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the planting process. So this is our original location, the Justice Edward Marine Park, which is located near Vivian Square and across the street from the Roxbury Police Station. Our original plan was to plant trees in the open areas where trees were so that there was a lot of sun. We went here on our first site visit and we noticed how hot it was in some areas that didn't have trees. So after looking up the area online, we found out that the city had already had plans to redo the park. As you can see in the bottom right hand corner, this is the sketch of what the park would look like. Okay, so our new location is the Warren Street Median in Roxbury. We went here on the site visit as well, and we decided that this would be the ideal location to plant trees on the median here. It's bare, there's only one strong tree there, and we found it a perfect place to plant more trees. Adding on to what Ethan said, this area has less tree canopy than other neighborhoods in Boston, so it's really important that you can add to the tree canopy. When we were doing an inventory of the street, we realized how hot it was because there was a lack of trees, and also how many buses and just people in general were going through the area. There was cars and buses that just walking by. And then this is just our community outreach slide. So we came up with a list of schools, city buildings, community centers, and churches that we could ask volunteers to come for community service hours for school or for other things. So this is our flyer we made on the right hand side here, just like to help water the trees with like the main idea of the volunteers. And then finally, this is our plan. We had a budget of $5,000 to $10,000. There was something we needed to account for, like the cost of new trees, an arborist to plant the tree and then also prune it. And then we also need either the city to water the trees, or we could get volunteers to water, like I said, the previous slide. We could get students from nearby schools to come water the trees for community service hours.
So with our budget, the first thing we picked out were the 5 trees we wanted, which are the ginkgo, sourwood, hornbeam, crepe myrtle, and little leaf linden. And you can see the prices written next to them. And at the bottom, you can also see the prices for a stump. Another thing we had to consider was the cost for pruning. So we found that the average cost for pruning could range from $75 to $400, depending on the size of the tree. But because these trees are going to be so small, they're likely to be close to $75. And trees in general need to be pruned every 2 to 3 years. And street trees specifically have a lifespan of maximum 28 years. So if we were to prune these trees every 3 years for 25 years, the total cost of pruning would come out to be $3,000. And if we ever want to hire an arborist to like maintain the trees in any way, that would cost $20 to $45 an hour. And then next, we also had to look at the cost for planting and watering. So with planting, we had to consider the cost for labor and supplies. And we found the cost of labor to be $120. And we decided that the supplies we wanted were mulch, stakes, and gator bags. And in the picture on the left, it's like a green bag, and that's what a gator bag is. And it's just basically a water bag. And the picture on the right, there's like these 2 wooden stakes in the ground next to the tree, and those are what stakes are, and both of these help the tree grow better when they're younger. And lastly, with watering, we're hoping that the city would water these trees because that would be free. But if for some reason the city doesn't want to water these trees, we thought about using nearby fire hydrants or using rain barrels or just having volunteers carry the water there themselves. And that would bring our total cost for this plan to about $3,550.
For tree options, we chose 5 trees. The first one is a ginkgo. It's a tree that's native to China. Its leaves are unique and or fan shaped. So ginkgos serve as ornaments and shade. Um, the sizes can go to 25 to 50 feet in height and have a spread of 25 to 35 feet. The reasons they are good street trees is because they are very tough, they're tolerant to urban conditions such as heat, pollution, salt, small spaces, drought, and insects. And next tree is it's a sourwood. It's a tree that's native to eastern United States. It's perfect for bees and other pollinators. Its leaves are in a spiral form with an oval shape. It's named sourwood because the leaves are very bitter and sour. It makes a good street tree because it's got no known diseases. It's tolerant to dry soils, salt, and shade, and also very easy to take care of. Next tree is a hornbeam. It's a hardwood tree with over 30 species across America. It's medium-sized that can grow up to 32 meters in height. It's got deciduous leaves that are 3 to 10 centimeters. It's nicknamed ironwood because it's got very strong limbs. It's easily transplantable. It's got moderate root flare, which means the roots doesn't grow that like it's I don't know, but the roots do not damage sidewalks. It's also very slow growing.
Tree that we wanted to plant in the meeting was the crepe myrtle. The crepe myrtle grows to a height of 15 to 20 feet, which makes it a good street tree because you can plant one of the seed. The flowers on the crepe myrtle make it aesthetic, and it doesn't require a lot of care, which is also good for street tree. The crepe myrtle does well in Lorax soil, and the roots of the crepe myrtle are unable to damage underground city infrastructure because they're so deep. The lily is it provides a lot of shade and it doesn't need much rain, which is a good tree. It might not get down to nature. The lily well in which is common in urban areas. It is a great plant. Some ways that you can help street trees are by adopting a tree. This means that you would leave the tree in water and clean air. You could also call 311 to request or to report. You're filling empty water tanks on trees to leave them. Also, not letting your dogs at the base of trees. Removing tree stands if not needed or and sharing what you learned with family and friends.
So
Does anybody have questions?
There was a question about that tree, the sourwood tree.
yeah,
Did you find that tree somewhere? Or is that just, where was that?
we just researched good street trees and sourwood came up.
But in the city?
No,
No.
Oh,
I'm thinking
what about
sourwood.
the crepe myrtle? Did you find that?
All right, thank you all so much. It looks like we don't have. All right, so thank you for watching the second presentation. We have a special guest with us today. I think it's very fitting that Reverend Mariama White Hammond is here with us today. We are so lucky. She came and visited us at the beginning of the program, and I think you all of the teens, right? You all learned a lot from her, right? Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for coming, and we're so happy you're here. So welcome.
But if it's not, then I will go ahead and grab some more, make sure that I bring them in. As I think you all know, we're in the middle of a heat emergency. We declare heat emergency anytime. All right, there we go. We declare heat emergency anytime we will have 3 sustained days of temperatures above 90 degrees. And you may have heard on television or in different places, when we declare a heat emergency, it triggers the opening of cooling centers across the city. And then one of the things my department has been doing is handing out these cooling towels. So what's really great about them is when you get them wet, they keep you cool, and you particularly use them on the back of your neck. A lot of the blood vessels that can have issues and can cause you to faint are found in the back of your neck. So making sure that when you're out, you need to stay cool, and particularly you want to make sure that your neck is as cool as possible. So hope you all take one of these. I've been using them over the last couple of days, but I thought I would bring them to share. So I'm only going to talk like really quickly, because I think mostly what I'm here to do is sort of answer any questions. I know as you guys have done more digging, it's led you to look at more of the tree policies and where we are. And so I'm trying to be available to answer any questions you might have or hear thoughts you might have about how we should engage more on the tree canopy. Have any of you gone to any of the city meetings around the tree canopy? Did you guys get to go to any of those yet? Okay, great, okay. There'll be more in the fall, so this isn't, you didn't miss your chance. So as you've gotten to see, their different parts of the city have different tree canopies. What part of the city has the most challenges in terms of tree canopy? Did you learn this? All right. Yes, Chinatown. Did you guys get any opportunity to go down there and see Chinatown? Well, how many people have been to Chinatown? Okay. And so you know that it's one of the older parts of the city. It was developed quite a long time ago, back when people weren't really necessarily thinking all of these things through. And as you probably know, you see a lot of the buildings are right up against the sidewalk. And so one of our big challenges is we want to put more trees. It's not really clear exactly where we can find more space. So after Chinatown, where are some other parts of the city that have heat islands or low tree canopy? And usually the two are together. So, Mattapan, yes, certain parts of Mattapan. And if you looked historically, that it was not always true. Mattapan has actually lost quite a bit of its tree canopy because of development that has happened in the last 10 to 15 years. Other parts of the city that really struggle with tree canopy. Yep, and what particular parts of Roxbury? You guys said it in your presentation, so I'm gonna. Yes, connected to a square, Nubian Square, yeah. And what do you guys, what makes a heat island? Like why do we have heat islands? So one piece is the tree canopy, what else? A lot of concrete, yep, and other hard surfaces, concrete being one of the absolute worst, yes. What else makes for heat islands? Lack of tree canopy, concrete. Within the concrete, non-reflective surfaces. So if we actually can find ways to make some of those hard surfaces a little bit more reflective, that can help reduce some of our heat. Anything else? So some pollution actually also plays a role in heat issues, right? And so if you have a lot of buses going in and out of a space, or a lot of cars moving through an area, they release particulates that make the situation worse. And many of them are also releasing heat themselves. I don't know if you've ever had the experience of you get out and you touch the car and you're like, whoa, it's pretty warm, right? They obviously are burning fossil fuels and making it hotter, and that situation gets even worse in the summer. So I want to just check in with you, because I know that these are conversations you've been having over the summer. What I will say to you is a couple things. How many people did you hear about the IPCC report that came out on Monday? Okay. Did you hear about a report from the United Nations that came out on Monday? If you don't remember, Okay, so the IPCC, I'll explain really quickly, is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. It's a group of scientists from around the world, and literally from around the world, that come together and release a report every few years to tell us the situation that we're in terms of climate change. For somebody who's read most of those reports, I'll be honest, I wasn't totally surprised by what they said, because it pretty much aligned with sort of what they've been saying up to this point. But what was pretty discouraging, keeping it real, about the report is, up until now, they've given us wide ranges of like, this is the best case scenario, and this is the worst case scenario, right? And every report, unfortunately, the worst case scenario has been a little bit worse, but we could kind of hope that the best case scenario is gonna happen. Like, we kind of hope that like, maybe we'll hit this. And now they're saying, basically there's a narrower range, their science is better. And what we know at this point is that we will not be able to hit 1.5 degrees Celsius. Now, I know that we all operate in Fahrenheit, not Celsius. That's about 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit. And sometimes I think we say that number and people are like, 2.7 degrees, it's not that serious. But it is pretty serious, as you probably have seen, in terms of whether or not trees live or die, right? How much heat a tree has to sustain, particularly in its early life, makes a huge difference in terms of whether it will make it. That's not just true about baby trees. This is also true about baby humans. How much heat we're exposed to in our early life, how much stress we're under, how much trauma we experience, can have a real effect on the rest of our lives. Can anybody think about things you've gone through in your own life, things you know, people you know in your life who've been through a lot, and you know, like it doesn't just go away when the stress is over, it carries with you. So what we know is that the earth is stressed out, and that stress is caused by us as humans. And we have a short period of time to figure out how we're gonna shift the way we live and how we do things, so that we can protect ourselves, protect trees, but really protect our ability to live and survive and thrive. So I'm gonna pause, because I know that you all studied a bunch of things, and I know a bunch of them have to do with my departments. And so I wanna make sure I'm open to questions. I do wanna talk to you a little bit about tree watering and some ideas that we have around that, but I'll save that until I hear first from your ideas and your questions. As you did the study, questions, thoughts, a lot of you said, we're gonna ask the city to water. What did you think? What do you think the city should be doing? Have you learned anything about sort of why some of the, I think the piece around Warren Street and why the trees died? We could talk a little bit more about that, but I wanna, as you've been studying, what have you come up against? Or questions that you have that I can lean into? Yeah.
I feel like places like they have trees, but like nobody's taking care of them. Like have to have like kind of a conversation of like that's what we have to trees that will ultimately take care of.
Yeah, so this is a challenge, and I'm gonna probably be more real with you because I haven't been a government official that long. Maybe somebody else will keep it real. People like to get new stuff, but they ask for the new stuff. They don't ask for the budget increase to care for the stuff. So as an example, we have, up until June, we had one working arborist in the entire city of Boston. Now, we finally hired a second person, but this person moved all the way from New York City to come work for us. And we got funding for a third arborist. You all saw how many trees there are. 3 arborists. Even at 3, even with one more, it's not enough to maintain the pruning schedule that we have in the city. So it means that we end up having often to pay other people to prune, and we gotta find ways to put money together in the budget to make that happen. And so it is a challenge because, as an example, my department is the Parks Department, which is where all the tree stuff is. It's smaller than it used to be, but we have more parks than we used to have. Why? Because people organize to get a new park, but nobody says, I want to organize to increase the maintenance budget, because that's not very sexy. Like, you don't do a campaign to be like, let's fight for maintenance worker. Like, but the problem is if we build a park and we don't have the people to maintain it, then the park, it'll be hard to keep it up to par. And so that's, and we've seen that this summer in a pretty crazy way, because for instance, an example of how climate change impacts, we get a lot of hot days in June, 10 days over 90 degrees. When it gets that hot, we cannot ask our workers to work the same schedule as we can if it's 60, 70 degrees outside. We have to have them take more breaks, they have to drink more water. This is just so that they can stay healthy and alive, right? So that means if you have a third of the month at which we're on a slowdown schedule, just to make sure people are safe, we don't get to everything. And then in July, what happened in July? I can hear sort of whispers, but I can't hear what. So the heat wave was in June, definitely. In July, we had something different happen. A lot of events got canceled because of rain, record rainfall. We set the record for rainfall in July, this July. How do you think that impacts our, now, it was good for the trees. It was good for a lot of the plants. It grew like crazy, they grew like crazy. What other things might have grown like crazy? Weeds, grass on the baseball fields, right? So we were excited to get the rain because it helped us in some ways. On the flip side though, if you have a maintenance crew that's out, can they cut the grass in the rain? No. So we have this tight rotation, and we had like 11 days in which tree crews could not perform all or some of their work. So we fell behind. Of course, I got calls in my office like, why is our baseball field in South Boston like not cut? Why is my baseball field in Roxbury not able to play out? Because if you have a bunch of days where you can't actually work, you sort of fall behind. So I'm not saying that that's a sexy like thing to work on, but I am keeping it real that as we look at building and expanding and planting more trees, which we absolutely have to do, we're also going to look at how do we match that with the workforce that actually can get out there enough days of the week and they can get out there in a safe way, because as it gets hotter, it does get more dangerous for park workers to be out. So I know that in some ways, I do think that people could have more value for trees. I do think there are times in which people, like I do see how many people like have their dogs pee on trees and think like, oh, it'll be fine, it can take it. And I'm like, it can take it maybe one time, but like if 5 dogs do it, that could really affect the tree. But I think one of the even bigger challenges is that I think there's more value for the planting of trees. What we haven't had people catch up with is value for the maintenance of trees. And that means that different parts of the neighborhoods, and some of them particularly that have low tree cover, we're gonna have to figure out not just how to put in new trees, but how to make sure that they can survive. And the current structure within the Parks Department is not well set up. One of the things I am doing is trying to figure out, can I train my maintenance workers to be tree pruners? Currently, during the summer, a lot of them are working overtime already. So I'm gonna need to figure out how do we get more people so I can use some of their time to start training them for a new skill set that would allow us to maintain our tree canopy. But we're still gonna have to figure out, at the end of the day, we will need more people. So I'm sure you all can know, there are some folks out there advocating for it, some people who get it and have been fighting now. There's a campaign of folks that are fighting for 1% of the city budget to go to trees and open space. That would be amazing if it happened. I know exactly where we'd spend the money yesterday, right? Because we would increase our tree maintenance, we would increase, our park maintenance. We'd be able to look at how we begin to upskill our workforce to be able to do like maintenance of native plants. Maybe we don't have to plant as many annuals if we have more of a native plant perennial maintenance plan. But that's gonna take some work and that's gonna take some money because perennials usually cost a little bit more than annuals. But if we made the investment, we could get there. So I'll stop because now I'm talking like a lot of stuff. I don't know how many of you all know, do you all know the difference between annuals and perennials? Did you learn that? Okay. Okay, so somebody really quickly, what's an annual? What is an annual, a plant that we call an annual? Take a guess. Yeah, it goes, well, it can, some annuals do go for a long period of time, but an annual is a plant that only will last for 1 year. Like if you plant it in April, maybe it gets all the way through, but when the winter comes, it's gone. By contrast with the perennial. Yeah, it will last multiple years. And usually, not always, but a lot of times those perennials are things that are native here. They grew up here, they knew how to live and survive here. They're not gonna peace out. They know how to get through a harsh winter. It's like the difference between somebody who grew up here, someone who moves from Florida, it's like, I can't take this. These winters are a little crazy, I'm moving back, right? Those plants keep coming up year over year because this is their home. And we do need to look at, can we be doing more of that rather than having to plant new stuff every year? So, any other questions, stuff that came up while you all were doing research? And I apologize because I am gonna have to run. I have to be in Springfield by 5:30, so I'm walking out of here and going back to Springfield. But any other questions? Oh, yeah. Couple things. One is probably there could be more people just going into the field overall. One of the things I've looked at is that there was a bump. So do you all have heard of there are different generations of folks, right? And so you had a lot of people go into the field who are what we call baby boomers. And so they're now aging out of the workforce. There are people like my parents' age that are all retiring. There's a number of different fields where you had a bunch of people taking up jobs who were all the same age. So when they leave, they all leave at the same time and you don't have enough people coming behind them to fill the position. So that's one challenge. The second challenge is keeping it real. The city doesn't pay as much as you can make in the private sector. So if you had to take a city job for $60,000, but you could get a job for $90,000 working for a company, kind of hard for us to get you over the private sector. So that's another challenge that we have. And then the other piece is just, I do believe there's a growing consciousness about the importance of trees, but in the past, I don't think people always were paying attention to it. And so people want parks. And there has been a lot of advocacy for parks and neighborhoods. There has been less advocacy for trees and street trees. I see it increasing. I know a lot of you probably learned about what happened at Melnia Cass. That was a big shift where people in a neighborhood were like, don't take down our trees. But that hasn't always been the case historically. People just weren't paying attention, didn't care as much. And even in terms of the parks budget, it is smaller than what it used to be overall. So it's also sort of like, what are our city and community priorities? And trees in many instances have not always been at the top of those priorities. And when people, there's a lot of folks that want us to do a moratorium even on private trees. One of the reasons that people are taking down trees in their houses is because it's not cheap to prune a tree. Like it's not cheap to maintain it. And so sometimes people say, oh, like the cost of maintaining this is cheaper than the cost of just taking the tree down. And they don't always think about what am I losing when I take this tree down. So we make the decision just as an economic decision without thinking like there's a benefit to this tree that I'm not always thinking about in terms of when I have an event at my house. I don't have to go out and buy some like, you know, those little like tents that people buy. If the tree is there, it's like you have a natural tent, right? But I think people don't always, and now those tents are so cheap, you can get them from Walmart. I think people are like, oh, whatever, you know, it'll be easy to do. So I think there's a combination of values issues workforce development. So I'm actually gonna be going to Philadelphia in October to look at some of the work they've been doing around green jobs. And I hope, before I go, I wanna really push you all to really think about how do you become advocates for growing the resources available for trees. I invite you to come to the city. The city has budget hearings every year in the spring, and people come and they say what they want. And if there's more attention to these issues, then more resources, and that happened this year. Like resources I didn't even ask for showed up in my budget because people beyond our department advocated for them. We got more money to focus on green jobs, so there's going to be some rollout that you'll hear. That also, we are in the process right now of really looking at how we can make more opportunities for young people to move into green jobs. We didn't ask them right away. I know y'all are, many of you are connected through Success Link. This is like their high season, so we were like, we're not going to stress you out right now and try to build something new in the midst of the summer job season. But we're hoping to pilot something with Success Link before next year to get more young people to know about green jobs that already exist like this, but also other options and trajectories. We've been sitting down with community colleges and other training groups to look at how do we make it easier for people to find out about what opportunities, like how many of you now know what it would take to become an arborist, right? How many of you knew that before you did this program? Right, so just that knowledge. Now, all of you are probably not going to become arborists, right? But the reality is none of you would have become arborists if you didn't understand the pathways you needed to take to get there. And so we are both trying to make sure that a lot more people understand the pathways, that we're making those pathways a little bit bigger to match the needs. And also that we make sure that if you do the training, if you go to school for something, it's easy for you to get into the job market. And so we're looking at it for tree pruning and maintenance, and also just landscaping in general, because there's also some stuff around native plants and urban wilds maintenance. But we're also looking at it for other jobs. Like, I don't know how many of you knew that the Massachusetts Water Resource Authority is like the preeminent water authority in the country, and it's known internationally. If you get a job there, you are good. You can go from the Massachusetts Water Resource Authority to anywhere you want to. You could be like, I'm gonna go from here to the water board in Italy, right? So I don't think a lot of young people know that. And that's someplace right here. So even having conversations like, do you have internships? Why don't you have internships? What can we do to help you have just a few more so that young people who might be interested in this career have a clear pathway? So I'm gonna stop there, and hopefully there will be other opportunities to engage. In terms of the stuff that's going on with green jobs, we'll be reaching out because we're gonna start some conversations around that in the fall in preparation for next year. But
they met with Kenzie Bach this week.
Oh, okay, good.
So they know about the green jobs, and they're gonna go, some of them want to provide testimony at the hearing.
Oh, that would be great.
So they know
That'll be
about
great.
this. They were climbing trees yesterday. Would you hire some of them tomorrow
To climb trees?
to climb a tree? They're ready.
I mean, so I know that also Southwest CDC is doing like more intense training, particularly around pruning.
Oh, they are pruning.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So that would be a good conversation with
Yeah.
their green group. I think is doing some specific stuff, but we are looking at, we now have $4 million to specifically focus on green jobs.
On the Zoom is our one of our contractors is from UMass Amherst.
Okay.
They're doing a program that I want to share with you.
All right, well, we need to figure out how we can get more folks in. So that money is there so that we can help open those pathways out. And so we'll be in
See
conversation.
all these kids up the streets. This is a little bit from us to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your support.
Well, thank you, and I hope to see more of you. If you don't come back here for another year, we will have internships open in our office next summer for young people. So if you're interested in policy and how decisions get made in environmental and green infrastructure world, I hope you will look out. I'm giving you the heads up that those will be also, we're looking forward to have it as a success linked option to do environmental policy at the Department of Environment. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Mariama. That was amazing. All right, we have our last group that's going to present now, and Neve, one of our team leaders, is going to introduce them.
Hi everyone, my name is Neve, and I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to work with such an incredible group this summer. They have put so much time, energy, and hard work into every step of this process, and I'm so proud of them and all that they've been able to accomplish this summer. So I'm very excited to introduce Maya, Theo, Hurley, and Taylor.
Good afternoon. This is our Mac Pantry Clinic project. My name is Maya. I go by she, her. I live in Madison. My name is Theo. I go by she, her, and I live in Madison.
My name is Taylor and I live in Rochester. My name is Courtney and
So this is what our site kind of looks like. It's a green grass area in the middle, and our apartment on the left, and trees aligned with the fence on the right. And in front of the apartment is a tree and it has a poison ivy on it.
this is our model. It's to scale, so it's 1 inch to 10 feet, and this is what our plan is. Before you saw the plot of land that is our site, and it was pretty bare, but here we added some trees. These are Japanese maple trees in the back. This is a pin oak. This is a Kwanzaa cherry right here with flowers. There's gonna be flowers around it. And this is the American sweet gum. And here are some shrubs all around it.
Okay, we're having technical difficulties. Give us 1 minute while we figure this out. Folks, see it now? What's that? All right. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
This is American history, where our site is. It comes from the concept of American phrase, meaning a good place to be. American began as a part of Dorchester in 1630, but was later separated. Separated to become its own neighborhood in 1870. By 1960, American had a population of 44,000 residents, most of whom were white. However, a lot of the white people in the area moved out to the suburbs, leaving a black population. And today, American is 77% black. Our site in American used to be a 3-story apartment building, but was taken down, leaving a longer park/site. This is some data about our site. It has the area surrounding our lawn has 26% tree canopy. The mean temperature of it is 82 degrees Fahrenheit, and the neighborhood population is 97% minority. I'll give you just a few maps. This is like a tree canopy map and a heat map. Where that arrow is where our site is. Also, the darker how the green is, more tree canopy there is. So you see here, it's actually pretty light, meaning there isn't a lot of tree canopy in the area. If you look on the other map, which is like orangish, like you can see that it's also pretty hot there, probably because there's a lot of tree canopy. If you compare it to other neighborhoods and see that there's a lot of other neighborhoods that have a lot more. This is the minority map. The darker purple it is, the more like minorities that live in the area. And if you can see where our site is, it's like near the Manhattan Dorchester line up there. There's a lot of
So why we chose the site was because it's, as you said, that there is only grass and there's only a few trees lining the fence. Sometimes people in the community bring their dogs there to do their business. And during the summer, Manhattan gets really hot and there's no shade whatsoever. And we thought it would be nice for people who are passing by the site to just relax on the benches under the shade. The existing trees in the area are the honey locust, the Norway maple, buckthorn, and eastern pine. There's one honey locust that's in between the sidewalk and the fence. It has little to no space to grow, and it has 2 trunks. One of the trunks are rich, and it could be detrimental to the apartment across the street. It could fall in a huge storm. There's 6 Norway maples. Norway maples are invasive species in Massachusetts, and 4 of the Norway maples are fully grown, and they are in fair condition because Norway maples are able to live in any type of environment. There's also 1 buckthorn. Buckthorns are also invasive in Massachusetts. It's in poor condition. There's multiple trunks wrapping around each other, and however, it has a full cap. There's also 2 eastern cottonwoods. They're in fair condition. They have space to grow. They have space for their roots to spread around. However, there's damage to the trunk and dead branches. Now on your left, you can see the buckthorn and the multiple trunks wrapping around each other. And on your right, you can see the honey locust. It has 2 trunks, and one of them could fall onto the apartment right across the street.
Okay, for risk assessment, some of the risks are there's lifted sidewalks and because we don't have enough space to grow, people to go on sidewalks. There are also slanted trees, so they can fall over on whatever there, like buses and cars. There are dead branches which can also fall. And there are multiple posts on some of the trees, so it's also something. Photos, you can't really see it, but over here it shows multiple posts, dead branches, and then like extended trees. Okay, this is the species selection. I choose 4 different types of trees. The American sweet gum has shade, it has diversity, it has it's good for climate change. And it provides shade, it has great canopy, and it acorns the spores less vulnerable to damages. The Japanese maple, its mature heights of 15 to 25 feet. It's good for squirrels, chipmunks, songbirds, and attract visitors to the space. And the painted cherry, it has good cherries for animals to eat. And then the last tree has a good aesthetics. And it provides privacy. These are the images of the trees. And this is the image of the Japanese maple.
Our main plan is to cut down all the trees that are there in the fall and to plant our new trees in April, which is early spring. We will be using stakes, chicken wires, shovels, soil testers, water buckets, water bags, and pruners. You can either hire people, minimum wage, 8 hours total, or we could have volunteers from schools or people around the community. We could also attempt to involve the city of Boston, and it will cost a total of $429.90.
This is our maintenance plan. How we maintain the trees is by pruning branches and soil and mulch to the planting spot. Cleaning the area and like cleaning trash in the area. Who will help maintain trees, high school students who need community service hours, volunteers in the Boston area and the neighbors themselves. Cleansing ivy and invasive species. Doing tools, gloves, trash bags, trash sticks, and also poison ivy removal in general. So, yeah.
In order to get the word out, we're gonna ask our principals, talk during some leaves. We can put flags around our neighborhoods, so people know what we're doing, and if they want to help out, how they can. And we can also use social media, like kids use social media, so it might be easier to connect with that. This is our budget. Our budget was $10,000. And we split up that budget in 4 components. The coconut planting, outreach, and care for 2+ years. If you don't know what coconut means, it just means the action of obtaining or preparing something. Pretty much preparing the trees, the flowers, the shrubs, the chicken wires, the soil, and the mulch, the waters, and the branches, and the stakes. The total of the coconut was $2,753. For the planting, the total was $429. And for the outreach, it was a total of $20. For the care for 2+ years, the total was $3,869. The amount we have left is $6,130. This is the pie chart. The coconut took most of it since we needed more tools to plant the trees. And then the planting, the care for 2+ years took a quarter of it since we didn't need that much tools for it. And the planting just took a little bit.
Questions?
Any questions?
Oh, we got a question here. Don't leave it up, put that in there.
Say that again?
No, no, no. Just like.
Benches are.
The benches are on the side, right here, here. Right here. They're just small. gonna buy them. There's like websites where you can buy them, and that's part of our budget.
Any other questions? No, you guys are awesome. Alrighty. Thank you so much. You all did an amazing job. I am so proud of all the work you've done this summer. You have learned so much and your projects are incredible. We just now need to go find money and then we'll give you a call on the phone and you'll all come running back, right? And you'll help us put these projects into action. What do you think? Yeah? All right. So we have a fun little video for you today. You're getting a sneak peek to a video that isn't yet public. So we're going to present that with you. And I know we're over time, so we'll present the video and then thank you all so much for coming. So 1 second.
You guys might have a hard time seeing this, but you're gonna hear it. Have to carry your screen. Make it video optimized video. Sorry about that.
All right, so sorry for those zooming in who couldn't hear the volume. You know, some technical difficulties getting everything set up, but thank you so much for coming. David, do you have anything else you want to say?
No, not to the televised audience.
All right. Thank you so much, folks, joining on Zoom. We really appreciate that you came, and hopefully you will be hearing more from us soon and seeing these projects that everyone worked on this summer in action. And thank you again.
Just see if I have any questions from the audience. Thank you all for joining. We just dropped the link in there. You can watch the video. It'll be up for a couple more hours and then we're gonna take it off. All right.